Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Big weekend of boxing that we've just seen. We're going to try and run through all the fights, try and do it 10-15 minutes here, talk about all the fights, talk about what's next for the fighters. There are 5 fights we're going to talk about. We're going to start with the Makhmudov versus Allen card. We'll start with Junaid Boston versus Bilal Fawaz in their rematch. Fawaz winning by majority decision 96-94, 95-96, 95-95. Easy work for Fawaz. Both fights just simple work. No. It was 2 tough fights, 2 very entertaining fights, and unfortunately for Boston, he didn't win either. I know the first one was a draw, but you probably argue that Fawaz won the first one. He definitely. It's so hard in these fights, isn't it? It is so hard because they were such tight fights. I think in both though, Fawaz did the better work. Although I think the scorecards probably reflect the 2 fights. I think if you watch those 2 fights and you come out with a draw and a win to Fawaz, you're probably not upset about that. I think that reflects the fight. Boston is probably not happy, probably more with himself than the results. As far as do I think Boston is not a very good fighter, or I don't think he's the fighter that people expect. He's still a youngster. He's still inexperienced against Fawaz, someone that's been in and around for a very long time, especially at British level. And I don't think it's a terrible loss. I think it was more a stylistic nightmare for Boston than it is a reflection of his boxing ability. I think Fawaz was just styles make fights, and I think Fawaz just had it over Boston in both fights. In terms of in 5 or 6 years, in the end, I think Boston will achieve and receive higher honours than Fawaz will. But in this matchup, Fawaz got the better of him in both matches, and they were 2 very entertaining fights. You can't ask for much more. This is a big one. Josh Padley versus Reece Bellotti. I mean, you got to feel for Reece Bellotti. You do. Honestly, I feel bad for the guy. Probably didn't get the credit he probably deserved against Ryan Garner. I know it's hard to say that when you lose in the end convincingly. I mean, it wasn't even a decision. It was a tough fight, Bellotti versus Garner, and I kept saying that because I thought Bellotti fought very well. It was just the small little things that Ryan Garner just got the better of him over the course of the fight and ends up winning the fight. This fight here, Josh Padley lost that fight. In my opinion, he lost that fight. I scored it 6-4 to Bellotti. I could understand a 5-5. I think Bellotti won the first 3 or 4 rounds. You could probably even say the first 4 or 4 rounds. I think Josh Padley won the back end of the fight. I'm talking rounds 8, 9, and 10. You had a few in the middle, but I'd still give those more towards Reece Bellotti. Look, I didn't score it as we went. I'm going off what I can remember, but from what I remember, that is the course of the fight. Even they had Tony Bellew and Tony Frampton, and they both said, one said a win to Bellotti, one said a draw. So you can see where everybody's mindset is, and then the scorecards get read out. If you didn't hear the scorecards, 99-92, 97-93, 97-93, all in favor of Josh Padley. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That is 7 rounds to Josh Padley, 3 to Bellotti, when Reece Bellotti probably won arguably the first 4 rounds. One judge gave Reece Bellotti 1 round and 1 round at 10-10. Ridiculous. Where this fight was won and lost, I think, was the inside work. Bellotti on the inside and in the clinch just had it all over Josh Padley, and Bellotti started much quicker. Josh Padley came on good at the end. I think he found his feet a little bit more at the end, and Reece Bellotti slowed. But in terms of the fight, that was Bellotti's fight every day of the week. This is one of the fights that I think needs disputing, investigating. That Bellotti, I feel bad for. He stormed off. I can't believe that they gave that decision to Josh Padley. In terms of what this does next, I don't think there'll be a rematch unless Bellotti really makes a big federal case out of it, which I'm not sure he will or won't. I think Reece Bellotti will be back. I think he'll be pissed off about this and want that fight back. If not against Padley, just against anyone, just to get a win, because he will feel, and rightly so, robbed of that event. Josh Padley, this is one of those fights, a bit like Hamza Shiraz against Carlos Adames. You're probably favourite going into the fight. You should have won the fight. You didn't, but somehow you escaped without a loss. Realistically, Josh Padley should have 2 losses. That is the fact. Josh Padley should have 2 losses, but he doesn't. He escapes it. He's got the win, but this is more of a fight where you've got to thank your lucky stars and reflect on that fight, because you were outboxed, you were outfought from probably the start to about round 8, till Bruce Bellotti quietened down and Padley secured the last few rounds and looked quite good. Josh Padley, look, if you retrospectively look at it, it's different to in the moment. Although I did say in the preview that I thought the Mark Chamberlain win was exceptional. The win against that Serbian guy this year was good, showed his class, but the guy was only Serbian sort of level. And the fight against an elite level fighter in Shakur Stevenson, he got pummeled. It wasn't really close. People sort of... It was more of one of those... I don't even know what you'd call it. A cult classic. It was more of a feeling towards Josh Padley. Connection to Josh Padley. It was a nice story. Josh Padley 3 days ago was installing solar panels. He comes in against one of the world's pound for pound fighters, goes 9 solid rounds, makes him work for it. But yeah, look back at that fight, and Shakur Stevenson basically won every single round, demolished Padley and got him out of there. So they're the levels that we got to look at. And then when you combine that loss to a low level fighter against Bellotti, who I think is a British level fighter, he needs to work on some things. That there is a lot of things to work on there if he wants to start saying, I'm a world level fighter, I am challenging for a world title. There is a lot of things he's got to go through. This is his first fight with a full camp. This is his first fight at super featherweight. I was expecting more. If I'm being honest, I was expecting more. I thought, you've got everything you need now to really go for it. There's no excuses that you weren't able to train when you wanted. There's no excuses about the weight. You didn't get to make the weight you wanted. You've gone down. You look good at that size. I actually thought he looked good at lightweight, but he looks good at super feather. It's probably because of his height. He's not as tall as some people, but that fight, there's work to be done. There is a lot of work to be done. What's next for him? I don't think he should fight Reece Bellotti next. I think he should move on. I think he will move on, unless there is a inquest into that fight and that decision. And unfortunately for Padley, people are going to hate on him because he got the decision, which isn't fair. Padley didn't give himself the decision. You hate the referees and the judges that scored that. Padley is just the guy that, unfortunately, won a decision he wasn't worthy for. So I've seen a lot of abuse online about Padley, and I'm like, what are you doing, bro? He didn't award himself the win. But anyway, Allen versus Makhmudov. I said it. I said Makhmudov would win, and he did. I feel bad for Allen, man. Allen is one of the nice guys of the sport. Lovable character. Everybody likes him. His opponents like him. And we'll get into the fight, but first I want to talk about Dave Allen. I think this will really hurt Dave Allen, and this is why I feel bad for him, because for lots of his career, he suffered a lot of loss, but no losses will hurt more than this one. And I say that because this is the first time I believe Allen has gone 100% in, committed, given his best of his best in a fight, in preparation, in mindset, on fight night, everything. I think this is the best Allen we've seen. And when you give your all to something and you try your best and you come up short and you're still not good enough, that hurts a lot more than giving 60%. You come up short and you think, I wasn't really, There's no excuses. And unfortunately for Allen, that is going to hurt. That is going to hurt. And I feel bad for him because, like I said, I think he's found a place where he's put in everything he can into the sport, and he's come up short. He's come up short. He had a roller coaster ride in the 2 Johnny Fisher fights. He comes into this one, lots of hype, lots of love, and he comes up short. In terms of the fight, game plan, when you think about it, and game plan in action are two very, very different things, and I think the game plan in action didn't work. That is the reason he lost this fight, and I think the game plan didn't work. His plan, he said in the press conference, opening 3 or 4 rounds, Makhmudov will throw everything into it, I'll sustain that, and then I'll come on strong in the back end of the fight. And lots of people believed him. Lots of people said, yep, that's probably right. I said that's probably right. I think if Allen can sustain a good activity at the back end of the fight, because Makhmudov will tire, providing he can survive the big punches from Makhmudov. And I think we saw a fight where Makhmudov came into it and fought more as his amateur experience and more of a boxer than more of a person that's coming there to knock your head off. Because even from the start, Makhmudov was throwing big punches, but not the amount that he would normally. A lot of more jabs, a lot more technical boxing, which I don't think Allen was prepared for. Allen stagnant. Allen was waiting for the shots that sort of didn't come. I will say Makhmudov landed some big shots on Allen, and Allen sustained them all. And arguably, I think Allen probably landed the better shots on Makhmudov, the heavier shots, stumbling Makhmudov, I believe, twice in that fight. But in the end, you look back on the fight and you say, Allen probably captured 2 or 3 rounds, but that was it. That was it. Makhmudov didn't tire. Makhmudov boxed that fight instead of brawled it, instead of throw those big wild punches that we'd normally see. And Allen relying on Makhmudov tiring, when Makhmudov didn't fight like that and didn't tire, when you've given the first 4 rounds to your opponent, it becomes a fact of you've got to knock this guy out. And when you can't, you're always on for a loss. And Makhmudov wins 115, 111, 116, 110, 117, 109. Calls out Anthony Joshua. Does he get that fight? Not in a million years, I don't believe. I think if AJ looks at that fight, he probably sees a Makhmudov that he can beat, but he also sees a Makhmudov that's very dangerous and doesn't bring a lot of money. And I think Anthony Joshua is at a point in his career where he's looking at the numbers. If the numbers aren't right, he's not getting off the couch. And I don't blame him. It's got to be a big fight. And if it's not a big fight, it's got to be a fight to keep you warm, but really not risk much at all. And Makhmudov, I think, is a risk. Dave Allen, I don't know what he does next. I think he goes back to the drawing board. He might look at fighting someone like a White or a Chisora. That sort of fighter, someone that's at the back end of their career looking for a British level fight. The fact is, Dave Allen is a likable person. He will sell thousands of tickets. He will, in a smaller venue, he will sell it out. People will come to watch him. People love him. People will watch him. You pair him up with a Chisora and you're talking about a good British level event. Unfortunately, once again, Allen has been found out at a world level. And as much as we love him and as much as we want him to jump that hurdle, it's not going to happen, unfortunately, for Allen. I think fights like that Johnny Fisher fight are the fights that I want to see him fight. I don't want to see him give up. I would love to see him fight another 2 or 3 fights, another 4 or 5 fights, depending on how he's feeling, depending on what happens in those fights. I think he's got a lot to offer still, and it's an unfortunate result for him in this fight, and I do feel for him. Makhmudov, I think he proved to a lot of people that he doesn't have to fight one way, and that he can take a good shot, because lots of people questioned especially his body resistance against Ajit Kabayel, and he took a lot of body shots today, and he took a lot of clean punches to the head, and he sustained them all. Though wobbled, he got through it. So, Makhmudov, what next for him? We saw him fight Ricardo Brown. Step up, fought Dave Allen. This is another step up. This is looking at top 30. It's looking at top 25. And then you step up again from there. Another heavyweight fight, Guido Vianello. He beats Alexis Barriere. Dropped him in round 4. Barriere survives the round, then gets stopped in the 5th. The referee stepping in. Vianello becomes WBC Continental America's heavyweight fighter. Very good fight. Competitive. Vianello ate some. Barriere ate some. 5 rounds. Exciting fight. In terms of what do I think's next for Vianello, I think he needs to work on a few things. He got caught with some big shots, and he was falling over his feet quite a few times in the fight. And, if you're calling out AJ, if AJ sees you doing that and you eat something like Ngannou ate, you're not going to survive it, buddy. You're not. So, who do I think Vianello's actually going to get? He called out Anthony Joshua at the Coliseum. That's not going to happen. Like I said, this is a bit like Makhmudov. Next step up. Next fight up. You're looking at top 30s. You're looking at top 25s. What's next for you to keep building to get to a top 10? Because AJ, you need to be a big name. You need to be bringing in money. You need to offer him something. Unless it is just a simple warm-up fight. Is it a simple warm-up fight? I think AJ would take it. If I'm being honest, I think AJ would take it. I think he looks at Vianello and thought, I beat this guy. If you look at that fight, I think AJ looks at it and says, I beat this guy. Last fight, to be honest, not a lot to talk about here. If you watch the highlights, you basically watch the whole fight. 2 minutes it took for Jerome Boots Ennis to eliminate Lima. It was simple work. To say Jerome Boots Ennis, his first fight at Super Welterweight, against someone that has differing opinions depending on person, but someone that I actually said will give Jerome Boots Ennis a good fight, but ultimately will lose comfortably. I said Lima would give him a good 7 or 8 rounds and then lose. 2 minutes it took Jerome Boots Ennis to drop him twice and then knock him out. Well, stop the fight. Unbelievable work. Unbelievable work by Jerome Boots Ennis. It all started with a great uppercut. Wobbles him. John Boots Ennis then digs in a few hooks to the body, a few to the head. That drops him to the floor the first time. He gets up, doesn't look great, gets dropped again, looks even worse. John Boots Ennis closes the show, the ref steps in, that's enough. To be honest, it probably should have been enough after the second drop, but doesn't matter. In terms of what's next for John Boots Ennis, it's a tough question, that one. It is a tough question, that one. Like, Lima is a top 10 guy. Lima is a top 10 guy, coming down from middleweight, big fighter, offered something in that fight, and John Boots Ennis destroyed him. At welterweight, we looked at the landscape and we thought Stanionis is probably the best guy to give him. He's probably the hardest challenge at welterweight, in a welterweight that's really not filled at all, with much talent at all. Destroyed him. Absolutely obliterated him. Made him retire in his corner. We're looking at someone that is well and truly above these fighters. Well and truly. And we knew that coming into the fight. We knew Boots Ennis was much better than Lima. Nobody really wanted to see it. We didn't really know what Lima was going to offer. If we're being honest, lots of people hated the fight but didn't really know what Lima was going to offer. I thought it was going to be more competitive. John Boots Ennis is actually just on another landscape to these guys. He called out an interesting bunch of people. Now, he called out all the champions, which I back. But then he added Charlo. That one I don't. That one I'm not really interested in seeing. Boots, get a belt. Now, I can understand. I think that Charlo name was thrown there because getting a fight with a belt, easier said than done. He's got a few people sitting around, lying around, and he's got to wait. So, Virgil Ortiz is the fight that everybody wants to see, that we've already wanted to see, and we're still waiting for it. Virgil Ortiz got to fight Lubin. The winner of that should be John Boots Ennis' next fight. And it should be Virgil Ortiz. I don't think Lubin beats him. I think Lubin offers a lot. I think people look down on Lubin, look at his record and say, you're not that great. He's a good fighter. He's a very, very good fighter. I think he will challenge Virgil Ortiz, but ultimately, Virgil Ortiz, I think, is exceptional. So I think Virgil Ortiz will beat him. You got Fundora rescheduling the fight with Thurman, which basically rules out Fundora till probably June of next year. We don't need to wait that long. John Boots Ennis could fight this month. Xander Zayas, I don't believe, has a fight. Barkram has a fight with Josh Kelly. And Abbas Barao. So, what fight he gets needs to be one of those guys. I don't really care if and when. It needs to be one of those guys. If it's not the number one on your list, go for the number two. I don't really care. Fight for a belt. Fight for an interim. Whatever it is. That's what's next for John Boots Ennis. It needs to be tough fights. And like I said, John Boots Ennis could fight again this month. So there's no real need for us to have to wait and round till May next year to see John Boots Ennis fight. Get him a fight in December. Get him a fight in January. Get him a fight in February. Let's see him again. If all of your options are exhausted and you can't get one of these names, then yeah, I'll back a Charlo fight. It's something. It'll keep him active whilst he waits. But ultimately, I expect Virgil Ortiz to beat Lubin, and that week the contract is signed. Turkey, I'm sure, will throw money at that fight. That fight could, in my opinion, go on a whole array of big cards. You want to fight for like a Ring 4 card, and you see John Boots Ennis, you see Virgil Ortiz, I'm hyped for that. I'm backing that. I'm looking at it and saying, that's a great fight on one of these cards. And if they want to make stacked cards, that's a fight that I don't think anybody would complain about. Virgil Ortiz has been on one of those cards. He fought Madrimov. So, I think the fights are there. John Boots Ennis versus Virgil Ortiz, I believe, will be next. I don't see a reason, unless Virgil Ortiz loses to Lubin, that we don't see that one next. Or if Virgil Ortiz gets some bad injury, and then we're looking at other opponents. If I look at all the people that are available and which fight I think I'd like to see the most, to be honest, they're all good. I don't actually think there's a fight that I don't want to see out of the champions. Probably Abbas Barao. I think that'll be the one that's at the bottom of people's list because it's probably the easiest fight. And we want to see John Boots not only win a belt, but challenge someone that's regarded as a very good fighter. And there's a lot of good fighters in this division. Which one's the best is up for discussion. I believe the best one in super welterweight, I think Virgil Ortiz is the best. I think Barkram's second. I think Fundora's third. I think Xander Zayas is probably fourth because he's fought the lesser people. But you could also argue Xander Zayas wanted to fight against Fedora, and Fedora ducked him. So there's plenty of discussions to be had around who's the best one. By the way, this is excluding Jerome Boots Ennis, because if you include Jerome Boots Ennis, I think he's at the top. I think 2027, Jerome Boots Ennis will be undisputed super welterweight champion. Bold prediction, but I think if people don't duck him, if the WBC actually command their belt like a respectable organization and not having Virgil Ortiz sit as interim for God knows how long and allowing Fedora to dictate who he fights and fight someone in Keith Thurman that hasn't fought more than once in 4 years, letting people like Manny Pacquiao get title shots, I think John Boots Ennis can get the fights. If we're seeing bullshittery like that, it's going to make it harder, but I expect Turkey and Eddie Hearn to back this with a lot of money and get Boots the fights that he needs, because Turkey should look at Boots as a money-making fighter. He is a person that will make money. He's a person that I believe Philly will love him. America will love him. I think you build him right, you get him undisputed, you start building this guy's profile, and whether he becomes as good as Terence Crawford is not the same as being as saleable as Terence Crawford. Probably more saleable. Terence Crawford, for most of his career, isn't a saleable fighter. Terence Crawford versus Canelo was a saleable fight because Canelo is the most saleable fighter. I think John Boots Ennis has all the ability and a saleability. So I think they've got to really try and mold that. He's still very young for the amount of fights he's had, and he's getting better and better and better and better. And like Eddie Hearn said, John Boots Ennis can fight super welterweight. He can go and fight middleweight. He can go and fight super middleweight. And we're looking at a 4-5 division champion and someone that I think has all the ability to do that. Look, it's early doors. I still want to see him tested against someone like Virgil Ortiz. I think that'll tell us a lot. If he goes in there and blasts out Virgil Ortiz, his stock's launching. He's gonna go sky high. If he can get a big fight against one of these names and destroy him, this guy will be on another level. Alright guys, let us know in the comments what you guys think. Like, subscribe, and I'm out of here. See yous!